astrology forecast for the week of January 26th through February 1st. We're going to start by covering some of the big transits this week, and then I will dig into our 3-card tarot spread for the week ahead. I like to keep these short and concise and under 10 minutes, and hopefully that will be the case for all videos going forward. Okay, so starting off this week, we have some relatively gentle astrological weather that's happening. We have a sextile between Mercury and Neptune in Capricorn and Pisces, respectively, and we also have a sextile between Venus and Uranus. And so there's a conversation between the inner planets, Mercury and Venus, and the outer planets, Neptune and Uranus. And when that happens, it can feel at times like there are outer events or larger circumstances that are impacting us at more of a personal level. And so this could look like you're tuning into the news, for instance, and kind of synthesizing information or having conversations about things that are happening more collectively that are kind of shaping or shifting your perspective. There is an opportunity for some compassion and a shift in mindset or perspective at the start of this week, but you have to seize it. Sextiles require some degree of activation or intention generally. So if you're feeling that opportunity at the start of the week to have a conversation that opens up your eyes to something or that helps someone else see something differently, this might be a great time to seize that. On Monday, Mercury enters Aquarius, so it's moving from Capricorn into Aquarius, and there's a shift then in our tone, the way we communicate, maybe the types of information or conversations that we're drawn to. And this kicks off a roughly 3-week stretch of Mercury in Aquarius. And the focus sometimes when Mercury enters Aquarius becomes a little bit more big picture. We move from an Earth rule or an Earth Saturn ruled sign, Capricorn, and into an air sign that is also ruled by Saturn, Aquarius. Its traditional ruler is Saturn and its modern ruler is Uranus. And so there is sort of a shift from the more pragmatic energy of Capricorn, Earth energy focused on the practical, and into Aquarius, which is often more expansive and more potentially system oriented or focused on potentials. And so there's still a level of Saturnian practicality here, but now it's meeting fixed air. And that might mean that at times we get a little bit stuck in a particular idea or fixated on something. And that could be all the more true because then on Wednesday, Mercury quickly meets up with Pluto in Aquarius. And so there's a conjunction between Mercury and Pluto in fixed air Aquarius. And that's really the beginning of this Mercury transit for us. It's like 2 days after it moves in, boom, it meets Pluto. And so there's a sort of heavy-handed quality to that transit where we might end up fixating really deeply on something. Already a capacity with Mercury and Aquarius, but all the more so when you add Pluto to the mix. And so this meeting between the two of them can call us to go deeply into something, to focus really, really deeply on something. And that could be for better or worse. It could be to an extreme. Pluto often works in extremes, and it can exacerbate issues or bring issues to the surface and cause us to focus on them, which can be a good thing if we're looking to get to the heart of something, right? It can be really illuminating in a way, and it can blow something up and make it bigger so that we can see it and we can work on it and potentially experience catharsis or relief or resolution in some way, but not before facing something that might feel a bit more shadowy or intense. And so you might notice that tone in conversations, you might notice it in relationships, you might notice it in collective events or in news or in things that are happening. There can be more of an attunement to the depths and to the intensity and to the murk, which is all Pluto's realm, god of the underworld, right? And so there is sort of a shadowy aspect to a Mercury-Pluto conjunction, and you're likely to feel that impact building up to Wednesday and then gradually decreasing after Wednesday. That same day, we also have a new moon in Aquarius, and I'm going to go deeper on that in my Patreon. I do an audio reading for every single new moon and full moon, and if you're interested in that, you can go join on Patreon starting at $4, and it gives you access to a whole bunch of perks and stuff that you can use to stay attuned to the astro weather and to get spiritual support throughout the month and throughout your life. And so I'll plug that and drop a link down below to my Patreon if you're interested. I'm not going to go deep on the new moon here, but I will mention that it's exact on Wednesday, and it's at 9 degrees and 50 minutes of Aquarius. So if you have placements around 9 or 10 degrees of the fixed signs, Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, then you will especially notice this new moon, and it'll kick off a new month-long lunar cycle. Next, on Thursday, we have Uranus, which is stationing direct. It's been retrograde for a while, and it's stationing direct now at 23:15 Taurus. And you're likely to notice this too. It can feel like a sort of a zap is the word that's coming to mind, but it can also feel a bit like there's this tension or almost like tectonic plate type action that's happening where something feels like it's shifting, because it is. Uranus stationing direct is a big shift, and it's likely to show up in the events that we're seeing happening, both collectively, more collectively, but also potentially personally. And I would pay attention to where Taurus is in your natal chart, and specifically 23 degrees of Taurus, which is where it's stationing. If you have if you have placements around 23 degrees of any of the fixed signs, again, you are likely to notice it especially. And then later that day, we have the sun forming a trine to Jupiter. So sun in Aquarius at this point forming a trine to Jupiter in Gemini. This can be a transit that offers us a degree of hope and relief. Jupiter in Gemini is not necessarily the most hope-oriented Jupiter, but it is a Jupiter that can help us to see nuance and to appreciate the sort of layers of information and depth. And so coming off of that Mercury-Pluto conjunction I mentioned, where we're getting deeper into something, it might feel as though something shifts in our energy and we're able to access a bit more hope toward the end of the week. I will say that this is exacerbated, and I'm using that word intentionally, because we also have a really big transit occurring at the very end of the week. It's a conjunction between Venus, Neptune, and the North Node in Pisces, all around 27, 28 degrees of Pisces. And this is a big hitter transit. It's in the late degrees of Pisces, it could bring on a sense of disillusionment or a sense of illusion, like perhaps we are not seeing things clearly, we're having a sort of veil of illusion or desire that's swept over our eyes, and we're just not seeing the situation with groundedness and clarity. And so I would keep that in mind. It could be a beautiful time for poetry, for dance, for movement, for art, for making things, and for really indulging the side of you that feels quite spiritually inclined. It could be a beautiful day for meditation, to turn off devices and to spend time outside. And all of those would be recommendations for me, is spend time outside if you can. Do something that engages your senses in a really beautiful and enriching way, as opposed to a draining way. And again, that means probably staying away from screens, staying away from environments that are really activating to you, and generally prioritizing your sense of well-being, because you're likely to feel more porous building up throughout this week, and especially around Saturday, February 1st, when we experience the conjunction. So keep that in mind. Use it as a time to maybe enjoy the brevity of beauty and pleasure and connection, but not get too invested in anything being permanent or lasting. That's really important around a Venus-Neptune North Node conjunction in Pisces, mutable water, is to not get too fixated on something lasting, but to really appreciate and be present with the beauty that's available to you now. Okay. Moving into, we're already at 9 minutes, so I guess the 10-minute rule is not going to work here, but let's get into our tarot read for the week. So I always do an anchor card that kind of represents the overall energy that we're working with, a challenge, which might just be something that we experience personally or more collectively, and then a gift that's available to us this week. So starting off with our anchor card, we have the Ace of Wands reversed. This, to me, the first thing that came to mind is that we're experiencing low energy. And that is very likely when we have these outer planets interacting with the inner planets, when we have this buildup to the Venus-Neptune stuff. We're likely to feel low energy, and we need to kind of go into that and let it be and honor it, instead of trying to push through and to maybe like create or initiate from a place of depletion. So I would not suggest like going all in and draining yourself. I would not suggest pushing yourself beyond your limits this week. I would really listen to your body and your energy levels. And also just appreciate the waves of creativity when they come to you. But again, don't get too hyped on something lasting or being the thing. This is not necessarily the week for longevity. It's not really the week to initiate something that you hope will sustain. It's the week to, again, appreciate what's here, but not hold it with such a tight grip. Our challenge this week is Temperance, which really makes sense to me with all this Pluto stuff happening and Neptune stuff happening. There is a very strong chance that we could get swept into more addictive tendencies or compulsive tendencies. There's the capacity for us to get kind of dragged away by something into the sea. And that's dramatic. I don't want to scare anyone. No, that's too dramatic. But like, there is a strong potential that we could get a bit lost. And we'll need to reel it in and come back to ourselves and try to stay grounded to the best of our ability. Try to practice balance and moderation. That's honestly most of the time what the word temperance means outside the context of tarot. Temperance is practicing patience and balance and moderation, and it can even mean abstaining from drinking alcohol. And so that could be a literal message for some of us this week, is that this isn't the time to indulge in substances, or at least to just be careful, to be cautious, to be thoughtful, and to, again, check in with our bodies and check in with our spirits. Finally, our gift is the Page of Coins. The Page of Coins, on the other hand, is bringing in a bit of paradox with the rest of the reading. So whereas I said that this is not the week for new beginnings, this isn't the week for like something that you can count on and like wrap your hands around and hold on to, the Page of Coins is suggesting that probably by the end of the week, there is something that we're feeling invested in that is more concrete and tangible. And so that could look like maybe from this space of creativity, we actually have an idea drop into our lap that we later act on. Or maybe we realize something about our core needs and what we need in order to feel well. And that comes out of periods of feeling a bit out to sea at times throughout this week. Or maybe there's an important experience that we have this week that really ends up triggering something within us and says, I want more of this. Let's do more of this. And that could be like a hobby or an experience or a place you go or something that you do that feels really good. And it's a reminder with the Page of Coins here. And this one is kind of reaching up at a coin that's in the sky and standing on this platform. And so there is something that they're reaching toward. And I get the sense for most of us, again, that's going to drop in as an idea, but not necessarily something that we're acting on this week. It could be something that comes next week or even farther in the future. I hope this is helpful. If you're interested in more, please do subscribe, and you can join me on Patreon if you want more private readings and group offerings. It's a really low-cost way to work with me. I also offer one-on-one readings via Zoom and phone, and I offer recorded tarot readings. So those are all good ways to work with me if you want more. And if you enjoyed this and got something out of it, please do like and comment and share. I'm sending you love, and I hope you have a good week.